Hello everyone, welcome to the For Honor fashion show with your lovely host, me, Fujikiyo. Before we start, I just want to thank all the lovely people that have submitted me their fashion, and for the judgment of your fashion, I'm going off my personal likes and details in fashion. Everyone has a different taste at the end of the day, it's just my opinion. If you want to be in the next fashion show, please send me your fashion on Discord. Only send me 2 or 3 pieces of your character's fashion, not the whole faction. Try not to get too butthurt if I'm negative about your character. As well, do not use the same armor pieces if you don't want to be bashed over the head with a rock by me. Now, let's start reviewing your fashion. Our first person who submitted me their fashion loves animals a bit too much, and their name is Tex. Stupid name, by the way. We're taking a look at the Orochi first. I think it's a pretty decent and serviceable Orochi, just a lot of red and gold. Nothing really too outlandish here, and no, it's not bad. Moving on to your Jack Frost themed gladiator. Just kidding, not really. It looks really good. I don't see many people actually use that effect, and it doesn't look overly bad. I think it's better than being a complete edgy gladiator, so I enjoy it. Good job on this one. Now moving on to your Nuxia. Personally, I think this is probably the weakest of the 3 that you've sent me. I'm not too sure because I don't actually play Nuxia, and I don't actually see much of their fashion anymore. I think it's because no one really plays the character, so this could be really good. But in my lack of expertise in this character, I'm not too sure. But from what I can tell, it's alright, and I think it's serviceable for what it is. Now moving on to our next contender, Azumi. I'm pretty sure I may have butchered that already, but who knows. The first piece of fashion you've sent me is a Kyoshin, and it is based off a photo of a samurai warrior wearing kimono, either probably the first photo or one of many that have come around certain time periods of Japan. So it doesn't look bad from a standpoint of it's just completely black and it's not too bad. But the understanding of the replicating of the photo, that's where I draw the line of it being pretty bad. In the photo itself, I can clearly tell that the color of this guy is blue, like a light blue, and his theming is a bit black. So I've decided to make my own version with that premise in mind, and as well the chest I've used is a lot better than the one that you're using because it's more accurate to the photo. So you can take it or leave it with this recreation. I'm really good at these apparently. So this is what I would suggest to improve it if you're trying to recreate the photo exactly to somewhat, or if you're just taking inspiration from it, then the fashion that you've submitted is fine. I would probably just recommend maybe changing the color if you try and do that. Now for your second design, you've sent me a couple of artwork that you've replicated. One of the artwork, you've done a really good job to replicate it, but the biggest negative that you've done with this is that you're using the same chest and arms. I hate that, and people should know that by now, but they don't, because you're slow. Besides that, I would recommend just changing the arms and you'd be fine. The only other recommendation I've done is I've taken inspiration from all the other photos that you've sent me, and I've designed my own, similar to the base of what you're going with the blacks and the whites. So this is my design. You can, well, replicate it or take some inspiration from it with your updated version that I hope to see in the future. Now moving on to our next contender, Get Some. Now before I even start this, I need to mention this. This is going to hurt me a lot more than it's going to hurt you. Looking at your first Orochi design, man, I don't know what to say. It's all over the place. You've literally... This design reminds me of, I just started the game. Oh wow, I got free stuff. Let me put it on my character. Somehow you've made me go back in time to 2017 with this fashion. I don't know how you've done it. We're in 2024 and you've made me go back in time with this look. You got symbols that just are all over the place that don't match with each other, just thrown on paint patterns. The helmet doesn't even match anything. What are you doing?
Why did you make me do this?
I'm trying to be positive, but I can't. It's terrible. I don't know why you did this to me. You've basically thrown yourself in the deep end and you're drowning. I can't save you. And we're dealing with the same problem as before with your next piece of fashion. It's all over the place again. You got like white arms. You got like a red and blue like chest piece. And then you got a helmet that's a bit of red and whatever material that is, I can't even tell at this stage. It's still all over the place. I don't know what you're going for. And you're using newer day symbols and no, I just why did you make me do this? Now moving on to our next person, named Watson. Unfortunately, we don't have anyone named Sherlock. Now moving on to your Green Conqueror. The only thing I would suggest not doing is having a paint pattern on the arms for knights, because usually paint patterns don't really work with knights, unlike samurai and Vikings, and I think Woolin. Other than that, I think it's alright. I don't really see many green conquerors, so good job here. And I also like the detail of your weapon being green as well. Now for your Highlander, I only really have one word for it.
Scotland forever!
Now moving on to your Kyoshin design. I actually don't mind it. I can see that you're going for more of a paint pattern is telling the story vibe than usually many other people having symbols tell the story. So I don't mind it. Two things I would suggest to improve this look is changing the weapon to more of a whiter weapon design to bring out the whites and maybe the orange, as well as getting rid of the arms because you're using the same arms. I know it's an armor variant, but changing that would be better, or even changing the chest to a newer version of that chest. And the only other thing I could recommend is maybe changing the material to be maybe white to bring out more of the color, because you've got a lot of blacks in there. So maybe getting another material, either maybe orange or white, to bring out the other colors, I would recommend. Other than that, good job. And just small improvements. And the other thing I did notice is that you're missing a paint pattern on your left shoulder, but you got one on your right. Bit weird, but each is their own. Now moving on to our next person, Thede, with your Orochi design. I actually quite like it. It's a very simple design. I especially like the detail of the arms and the chest, both matching with the chainmail theme. And the helmet is quite nice because it's just, metal as well. So everything works. I think it's quite good. So you've done a good job there. Now moving on to your Valkyrie, that probably more looks like a Valkyrie than anything at this stage. I don't know if you're using the same arms and chest. That's where I'm not too sure, because I don't really play Valkyrie. But if you are, then change that completely, because it's terrible. Other than that, I think it looks good. I think it's just a simple Valkyrie design. The wings effects brings it out more than anything, especially the ornament too with the black wings. I don't think there is just black wings effect. I know that there was one with a red theme into it, so you could probably maybe either change it to that. But I know what you're going for with this one, so I don't think you need to. So very good job. Now moving on to your final design, that is supposed to be an inspiration of the Sakai armor from Ghost of Tsushima. Great game. Now, obviously the negatives is that you're using the same chest and arms. I know that you're trying to replicate the armor, but still hate it. I would actually recommend changing the arms to one of these, because of the kind of the chainmail could kind of be a representation of how the armor is kind of like scaly in a way. So that could also work, or you could just change the arms to one of the most recent sets of that variant of that helmet that came out, and it would still work. Other than that, yeah, you've done a good job. Now moving on to our next person, named Worm Bones. Now I don't know what glue you're sniffing, because I'm 100% sure worms don't have bones.
Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Moving on to your first Kensei design, I actually quite like it. The only suggestions I would make is changing the helmet and possibly the arms. Now I changed the helmet to the newer version because of the torchlight really brings out a lot more of that color, and the ornament helps out a lot. Now I've made my own version, very similar to yours, just to incorporate different things. I've made the arms different to incorporate more of the white and a bit more of the gold for the pants and the torchlight. And I've also changed the helmet, like I said previously. Now I found a color that works really well with this, because the ornament is permanently that lightish blue and white. So with this paint pattern, it really goes well to everything together, to just incorporate it all, to make it look like it's all the same armor, or at least similar to it. So this is my version. You can take some inspiration from it, or you could just copy it if you like. And yeah, I think you've done a good job with this one. Moving on to your next Kensei design, I actually quite like it. I don't see any negatives. One detail that I will mention that I really like is the shoulders, because you've made them permanently kind of red with a bit of black in there. So just kind of like a contrast type of thing. Don't think that's the correct word. I also do like your hilt being black and gold, black, gold, and red. So that's really good. So overall, this is a really good, simple red demon themed Kensei. Now moving on to your final Kensei design, I actually don't mind it. I see what you're going for because you're trying to match the flower patterns on the pants onto the arms, so that's actually not bad. I do like it. The only thing I'd probably recommend is maybe changing the helmet to one of the newer variants or a different variant that has a bit of red in it. I've made a couple of variants without the ornament just to, work around and test it to see what it looks like. But you don't have to do this, but it could be another option or a suggestion. Now moving on to the next person, named Crusader. Now I couldn't tell because of the profile picture and the name, but I think they like knights and the crusade. Now this is just a theory, there's not much evidence towards this though. Now looking at the only piece of fashion you've sent me, a simple and okay design of Warden. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't expecting to see this. I was expecting to see a Crusader themed Warden, not a red and silver and gold Warden, but nonetheless, it's actually not bad. You're not using the same armor, so that's always good. I think it's serviceable for what it is. It's nothing like out of the park or amazing, but I think it's a lot better than some of the armors for Warden I've definitely seen. So not a bad job, but I was expecting a Crusader themed Warden. Now moving on to our next person, Zane. The first design is some type of Templar warmonger. It's not bad. I can't see the back of it, but I would recommend changing maybe the color to red for the cape, and maybe having like a white symbol on that cape to match with the whole white themed. Or I would put a red symbol on the chest, and that would be it. Because red really pops out with white a lot. Other than that, I think it looks good. I don't know if you're using the same armor. If you're not, well, we've already gone through this song and dance multiple times. I don't think I need to explain it. But other than that, not bad. Now moving on to your Lawbringer. It's not bad. I might be a bit biased here because I actually don't think Lawbringer has good armor. And I don't know. I could be a bit biased there. But other than that, it looks alright to me. But yeah, I think there are better characters with better fashion. Cough, cough, Kensei. Whoop, whoop. Besides that, no. I think it does look good. No, not bad. Now moving on to our lucky last contender, named Dyrox. Why do you always make the dyslexic man read strange names like this? This is like a nightmare for me. Now moving on to your Warmonger. I actually really like the design of it. I think all of your paint patterns and the symbols work really well, especially with the weapon that you've done. The only thing I would say that for me that doesn't really click is the helmet. I think maybe trying a different helmet would be better. But other than that, I think you've done a really amazing job with this one. I really like what you've done. Everything works really well, and nothing is overdone or underdone. So good job here, mate. Now moving on to your Nobushi. Unfortunately, I do know what color this is. It's Let It Go, because it's the weaker and uglier version, in my opinion, to the color Fujiwara. Not biased at all. I think it looks really good. My only critique is I don't think the arms are really complementing any of the armor, because it's not bringing out any of the blues, reds, or whites, so I would definitely change it to some that brings out more of the colors. And I think the helmet looks really good. I think you could try and find a different helmet of that variant that maybe has a bit more gold. But other than that, I think you've done a really good job. At least keep the helmet, but I'd say the biggest thing I would change is the arms. It doesn't really help the armor at all. Thank you again to everyone who has submitted me their fashion. Don't forget, if you want to be in the next fashion video, send me a fashion on Discord, blah, 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 blah. Before I go, I do want to mention that please stay tuned for the channel because I have a very special project coming up soon, the story of Fujikiyo. So please keep an eye on that. It's one of my biggest and most worked on projects that I've done. It's a cinematic short film, I would say, using For Honor. It's not as perfect as I want it to be, because, well, unfortunately, the resources that have been given to me by Ubisoft are pretty terrible. If they ever do fix that, I would make another version and make it the best thing ever. But besides that, I'm really happy with this project and it'll be coming out soon, so please stay tuned for that. Other than that, If you want to be in the next fashion video, it will probably take some time because I am quite lazy, so like this one. Besides that, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.